So today, during our Share Network community partner meeting, we will learn about the Sounds Good Choir, which is the Chicago area's largest choral music organization serving older adults. This nonprofit has served community since 2016. And during our time together, the co-founders of the Sounds Good Choir, Reverend Dr. Sandy Siegel Miller and Jonathan Miller, will share a brief history of the organization. They will describe its three main program areas and outline ways in which those interested today can become involved. I'd like to take a moment and introduce them. Clinical psychologist Reverend Dr. Sandy Siegel Miller has been in a private practice in the western suburbs for more than 30 years. Her work with older adult choirs is a major pivot from her clinical work with children and adolescents. The keeper of the culture at the Sounds Good Choir. She is the guiding spirit of the choir's programs for people with memory loss and their care partners. Sandy also coordinates a team of neurology researchers who are studying the impact of choral singing on older adults. Sandy is a deacon in the Episcopal Diocese of Chicago and serves as an ordained clergy at Church of Holy Nativity in Clarendon Hills. She joins with her husband, Jonathan Miller, who is a conductor and arts entrepreneur and is well known in the Chicago area for two choral music organizations, one being the Chicago A Cappella, the Virtuoso Vocal Ensemble that he founded and led for 27 years, and the Sounds Good Choir organization for older adults, which he co-founded with his spouse, Sandy. Jonathan Miller is known as a visionary who inspires people to make good things happen in the world. We need more people like you, John, and you are joined with people like that today.
Oh, sweet, thank you.
Jonathan makes choral music fun and enjoyable for singers from amateur to professionals. John's family moved to Hyde Park when he was 9 years old. He attended Shoesmith, Lewisworth, and Kenwood High Schools, go Broncos. He spent 10 years as a singer with the Chicago Children's Choir. After earning a doctorate in historical musicology, he couldn't stop singing and conducting, so this is what he still does now. A leader in Jewish music, he is a high holiday cantor at Congregation Raphae Zedek in Hyde Park and creative director of the worship team at West Suburban Temple, Har Zion, and River Forest. So without any other wait, let's go ahead and welcome Sandy and John. Thank you all.
Thank you. It's great to be
Thank
here.
you. What a great introduction.
That's a fabulous
Wow.
introduction. Thank you, Janelle. So
No
sweet.
problem.
So we're going to keep this pretty informal and personable. Partly because this is you all are mostly in the neighborhood I grew up in. Hyde Park is so close to our hearts. And I'm going to start with a little bit of music. This is a piece that our choirs are actually working on right now. So let me go ahead and share the screen and share some music. All your heads will probably move off to the side because that's what happens. We'll do that and then we'll cue up the music. Here we go. Just give me a moment. So welcome all of you. It's so good to be here with the Share Network. You can see our mission here since 2016. This is what we do. Sounds Good Choir is a fun, welcoming community where older adults enhance their well-being through joy of music. And it's been a real change for me. Janelle mentioned the first thing I did in my musical career. Let me just go back here. The first thing I did in my musical career was Chicago A Cappella, which was a very high-end professional ensemble. I call them the Cirque du Soleil acrobats of the voice. There's really nothing they can't do. And if you want to just be knocked out, go hear one of their concerts. But Sandy and I had a personal a year in 2015 that was extremely difficult and challenging on a number of counts, and we don't have to get into all of that right now. But it made us just look carefully at what we were doing. And I had just lost a job actually in music publishing, and I needed something new to do. And I was guided by a number of relationships and some encouragement, and lots of encouragement from Sandy, to bring this concept of choirs for older adults to the Chicago area. We had been friends a couple of years before with kind of the mothership of the older adult choir movement, a group in Washington, D.C. called Encore Creativity, which is still going. And at the time, they had an affiliate program, and they said, you could bring this thing to Chicago. And after our really difficult year, we decided to do just that. So we're going to walk you through a little bit about how we got here, and then more importantly, what we're doing now. I'm going to turn it over to Sandy so
Sure.
she can fill you in. Go ahead.
And I'll just add that the difficult year, I think, really helped shape kind of the spirit of our organization. It was a year of lots of losses. My mother died in the beginning of May. John's dad died at the end of May. Our cat died. John's stepmother died.
And then I lost
And
my
then
job.
John lost his job at the end of the year. But and I think, as you know, sometimes out of difficult circumstances comes inspiration for new beginnings. And I think we felt very strongly that, life is short, and let's do something that will bring some joy into the world. So I hope that's what we're doing. We have, as you can see, we have a number of choirs throughout the city and suburbs. We have 8 locations right now. Prior to the pandemic, we had 11 locations. So we're going to be in a rebuilding phase, I think, for a couple of years post-pandemic. Overall, we've served over 1,000 singers, and we're building back up to prior to the pandemic. Our last choir before the pandemic had almost 600 singers. So we're as I said, we're rebuilding. But we have 2 of our 8 choirs that serve people with memory loss. Our Good Memories Choir on the Gold Coast is specifically designed for people with dementia and their care partners.
Go for it.
Singing together. And we have a kind of a hybrid choir in Evanston, which is a combination of a Sounds Good choir and what was our previous Good Memories choir. And now we have a dementia-friendly concept that we're trying out to see how it works to have our 2 choirs singing together.
Yeah, we started gradually in early 2016, and I'm proud to say that Hyde Park was one of our two very first choirs. We rehearsed at Montgomery Place back then.
Our second ever rehearsal was
That's
in
right.
Hyde Park.
Our first rehearsal was in Evanston, and literally the next day, we're actually coming up on our 7th year anniversary
Next week.
this Saturday.
Yeah,
Anyway, no, it's actually this Thursday will be the 7-year anniversary to the day of our very first rehearsal in Hyde Park. And we seem to be filling a need. The thing really grew very quickly, and so now we have the 8 choirs that you're looking at right now. All right, let's go on to the next slide. So what is Sounds Good Choir? That's a good question. There are a couple things about the way we work that are a little bit unusual. Some things are common to every choir. We are fun. We try to make it fun. Everybody tells us that we're fun. Fun is a super important part of what we do. One of the really important things, sorry, I don't know why this is advancing. One of the things that drew us to this work is that the model that we have adopted from the Encore people in DC is almost all of our rehearsals are during the day. So many older adults tell us they don't like to drive at night. They don't like to drive when it's cold outside. They just want to do stuff during the daytime hours. So that's what we do. Our choir in Hyde Park is on Monday mornings from 9:30 to 11. We'll give you more details on that later. It's at KAM Isaiah Israel, across from Obama's house. But it really helps. In fact, a number of people have come to us from other choirs saying, I was part of a community choir for 15 years and I just didn't want to go out at night, and I really want someplace else to sing where I can sing during the day. So that's what we do. Sometimes people walk if they're within walking distance. Sometimes they carpool, they take public transportation, what have you. Another really important part about what we do is even though we're a non-auditioned choir, we want to give a really high quality of musical experience. And so all of our conductors and pianists are professional working musicians people at the top of their game. One example is Linda Powell, who's our conductor in Oak Park. She's been a fixture in the community for 35 years. She taught middle school there and then taught high school, and she's known and very much loved. And that's actually our biggest choir. But all of our conductors are working professionals. Many of us are also professional singers. And that leads to the next item, because when you get older, I imagine everybody has some personal experience, the voice is different at age 60 or at age 70 or age 80 than it was at 30 or 40. And there are things that you need to do differently with your voice to make sure that you can sing in a healthy way, in a way that you can sustain, in a way that you can do for an hour and a half, a couple days a week. We are really blessed in that my voice teacher, Karen Brunson from Northwestern University, is one of the international experts on the mechanics of the older adult voice. We've been trained by her, we've been trained by a couple other people, and so we always start rehearsals with really good warm-ups, with breathing techniques that help people understand the muscles that go into older adult singing, and people tell us that sometimes their respiration has improved, or that they've been able to, one woman told me the other day, I was having some trouble breathing, and I just remembered the breathing exercises that you told us to do in rehearsal, and they really helped me get through a difficult morning. Our repertoire is really varied. We usually do 8 pieces on a spring or fall program, varies folk songs, gospel music, arrangements by contemporary composers, all kinds of good stuff. Christmas and Hanukkah music and secular wintertime music in December. And in the summer, we do an 8-week rock and roll session, which is super fun. And Sandy right here picked all the music for our summer session. So,
and the slide you're looking at right now has us singing Let the Sun Shine In,
Age of Aquarius.
The Age of Aquarius, so we all had goofy glasses on.
Yes, these are psychedelic peace sign glasses that we got from Oriental Trading Company, and it was and in the summer we perform with a live 4-piece rock band.
Yeah, we always do rock music in the summer.
And one of the most important parts about what we do is that we have no audition. A lot of people have been singing their whole lives, and it's like, sure, I can sing in a choir. But for some people who sing with us, this is the first time they've ever sung in a choir, and we want to make it a very welcoming, like a y'all come environment. So there's never any audition.
One of the things we often hear from our singers is that somewhere in their early childhood in school, they were told by a music teacher that they shouldn't sing, or that even sometimes that they couldn't sing. So they come to us saying, well, I can't really sing. I don't think I can be in a choir. And so we go about showing them that that's certainly not the case.
Yes, I love singers like that, because I love showing them the opposite of that. And I don't know how many of you were ever one of those singers where the teacher said, just mouth the words. That's so humiliating. It's so obnoxious. I would never do that to anyone. So anyway, we are very, very encouraging. Another thing is that, we can move on. Yeah. So Sandy's elbowing me, telling me to move on. All right. So just one quick thing about being a married couple who work together. Sandy is not my boss at work, and I am not her boss. I mean, of course, happy wife, happy life. You know that. But there are other ways in which Sandy is very definitely my boss, but we're lateral peers at work, which is kind of fun. So why don't you talk, Sandy, a little bit more about how we got started.
As Jonathan mentioned, we started in early 2016 and added choirs. We were doing short sessions of 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Yes, short 6-week sessions just to see if we could get our feet on the ground and move forward. And by the end of 2016, we had 6 choirs scattered around the city, and started into the schedule that we now have, which is kind of a semester schedule. We run a semester, so to speak, session in the fall with a concert in December, and then a session that begins usually in early February and ends with concerts that are coming up in May. And then we do Rocks music in a short session of 8 weeks during the summer.
Can I just add one quick thing to
John
that?
wants to add something.
Yeah, we tend to sing either 3 or 4 part music with piano. Everybody gets sheet music, so if people learn by ear, we have really high quality practice tracks. Most people are comfortable reading music, but you don't have to be able to read music either.
Mm-hmm. So by mid 2016, we were going great guns, adding choirs left and right. And Jonathan ran into a colleague of his at a conference who said to him, Jonathan, I've got to tell you about this choir. I just joined the board of this organization in Minneapolis, and they're doing choirs for people with dementia, singing with their care partners and a group of trained volunteers. You really ought to hear about this. So without too much prompting, we jumped on a plane, went up to Minneapolis, and spent a day with the Giving Voice organization in Minneapolis, observed a couple of their choirs, and spent most of the day in tears and tremendously moved and inspired, and pulled out our laptop on the plane ride home and said, we just have to do this. We have to do it, as if we didn't have enough to do. So we put together the concept of bringing a Giving Voice type choir to Chicago, and it took us 2 years to raise the money and get organized, and we started our first choir, the Good Memories Choir, on the Gold Coast in mid 2018.
Yeah, we were talking to Janelle about this the other day, and I don't know if you've ever had that sense when the universe grabs you by the scruff of the neck and shakes you and says, you absolutely have to do this. It's not optional. You may not know how you're going to do it, but you are going to do it. And that's definitely the feeling that we had. We have very much felt called to this kind of work. So the next slide is a little bit about what the Good Memories Choir looks like and why we do it. So you might call this a virtuous circle. Sandy, you want to
go ahead?
Okay, so one of the things that's kind of unique about the Good Memories Choir is it's not adult daycare. So sometimes people have misunderstood that, so we try to frame it as accurately as we can. This is something for a person with dementia and a care partner to do together. This program was created in Minnesota by a woman who for 10 years had been the chapter executive director of the state Alzheimer's Association. And she looked around, and what she saw, Mary Leonard is her name, she saw that the most socially isolated subgroup of, if you look at the whole population of people with dementia, the people who are the most isolated were the early stage people living at home. Because there's so much shame surrounding a dementia diagnosis that people tend to pull inward, self-isolate, cocoon, and just not go anywhere. And so they thought, how can we possibly create she wasn't a musician, she was an Alzheimer's specialist. She thought, how can we create something joyful for people with early stage memory loss, still living at home, and their care partners to do together? So they came up with this brilliant idea for a choir. It's not our idea, it's their idea. They just let us use it. So it's people with dementia, care partners who can be a spouse, a family member, a family friend we see sometimes, a paid caregiver, it doesn't matter. They come to the choir together, and the registration covers both people. And the secret sauce of the Good Memories Choir are the volunteers. So there's a third group of people that are volunteers who've had about a half a day orientation session about what it's like to interact with people with memory loss. Most of them sing in one of our other Sounds Good choirs. They're all there together, we're all singing, and nobody is identified as to what role they are. So it's not, I'm Bill and I have dementia, or I'm Mary and I'm a care partner, or I'm Sylvia and I'm a volunteer. It's just, I'm Bill, I'm Mary, I'm Sylvia, and I love to sing. Yeah, and we have snacks that have social time. So it does a couple things. The volunteers are remarkable human beings. They're just there because they love it, and they love to sing, and they want to be helpful.
Many of them have had experiences with dementia in their family or in their friend group. So in some ways, they come to us trained and knowing a lot about what they need to do and what their singing partner needs as well.
Yeah, and you all know this, I think. So often when the average person on the street hears the word dementia, they immediately think of someone who's advanced stage, living in a care facility, and nonverbal. So we're talking about people who are earlier on the journey. And sometimes what we found is people seem to think that people with dementia no longer have an emotional life. That's completely not true. And so part of what we do in the choir is we engage people emotionally, because lyrics have soul and they carry emotion. And our job as singers is to bring that emotion out and communicate it to the audience. So people light up. And the thing that my friend in Minneapolis said we had to come see was, he said, just watch this, Jonathan. After 30 or 45 minutes of singing, the brains of the people with memory loss wake up, switch on, whatever metaphor you want to use. And for the rest of the rehearsal, you cannot tell who has the disease and who doesn't. So that was why, as Sandy said earlier, we cried all day, because we got to go see it for ourselves. It was incredible. And so anything else about sort of our circle of how Good Memories works?
No, I mean, we do see that. I think that doesn't occur in everyone, certainly.
And not every day.
But we also have seen the benefits, the multiple benefits of music, and I think that's also inspired us to want to do some more systematic research of, what really is happening and what are the benefits. Can we document those? But before we move on, I want to say something about SNAC, which
we love SNAC.
Yeah, we reopened in person a year ago, and because of our concern about the safety and health of our older adult participants.
I got it.
We didn't have SNAC for the past year, and we've emerged with snacks. We put snacks back in place within the last 3 or 4 weeks. We're seeing the incredible importance of snacks, but just that informal social time. One of the things that's really interesting to see is sometimes the care partners kind of group together and they're talking about their experiences, which I think, as you know, are very unique and often very stressful. And it's wonderful to once again not only have really fun food, but to have the opportunity, in addition to singing, the opportunity for people just to kind of hang out together. And there's a bond among everyone at the choir. It's like we all know why we're there, and yet we don't have to talk about that. And people talk sometimes about many doctor's appointments they have, or the fact that this is the only fun thing on their calendar for the whole week. But for the most part, people just enjoy being able to have time together where everybody kind of understands what their experience is.
Yeah, and when you talk about caregiver burden, one of the things that the people at Giving Voice, we call them care partners, and that really is the language that we prefer to use. They tell us a couple things. One is, this is usually the only thing that we do in the week that's fun, and this is the only thing in the week that we do together that's fun. So
that they don't have to plan.
Yeah, our care partners say this is the only 90 minutes in the week that I don't have to plan. And it gives most of the care partners sing in the choir, not all do. There's one guy who sits in the back, his wife sings in the alto section, but he's there.
It's okay.
He's digging it, he's cracking jokes, he closes his eyes and lets the music wash all over him.
He's getting what he needs, I think.
He is,
yeah.
And that's totally okay. So good, let's go to the next slide. So just to go back a little bit in terms of history, this all happened to everyone. Everyone's been through this. Yikes, COVID hit in early 2020, and we had to pivot. I know everyone's tired of that word, but because of some great relationships we had with people who were really at the cutting edge of technology, we were able to pivot to have choir rehearsals very quickly over Zoom, first over Facebook Live, but then over Zoom. And you can see all the heads here with the Hollywood squares, people practicing at home. Yeah, there's Sandy at the top. But tell them about what happened to the Good Memories Choir online, because that wasn't so good, but something good came out of it.
I watched with dismay in early 2020 as my people with dementia really struggled with the technology, and particularly all of our singers struggled with the technology. In fact, one of the things we did was put one of our part-time millennials that are on our staff, and we charged her with 20 hours a week doing tech support in order to get all of our people up and rolling on Zoom and all the other techno stuff. But at the time, our rehearsals, as they pivoted to an online format, they required people not only to sing over Zoom, which I don't know if you've ever done that, but it's a cacophony of horrible noise. So, we end up having to mute everyone, and everyone's just singing isolated in their own living room. As one singer said, all I'm doing is singing badly by myself in my living room. But also trying to learn unfamiliar music in 3 voice parts over Zoom proved quickly to be way too much for my people with dementia. And I watched, as I said, with dismay that I saw that we were losing them. And over a pretty short period of time, we were reaching out to them for doing coffee chats and other ways of trying to stay in contact and trying to keep them in our community. But I realized that musically, what we had to do and had no choice about was not going to work. So I created a sing-along. And if you think about what some of the musical interventions for people with dementia, some of them are unison singing of songs that are familiar. Particularly, there's that sweet spot of music that was learned in the late teens through maybe the early 30s, that the years of the teens and 20s seems to be the music that's retained the best for people with dementia. So we put together an online sing-along. It was over Zoom, so we still had the tech support piece, but people were able to tune into the program. It was a weekly, once a week unison sing-along along a theme. So it might be spirituals one week and protest songs of the 60s the following week, and a Beatles program, and then Perry Como and some musicals. And every week we had a conductor who led the program, singing songs that pretty much everyone knew with the lyrics on the screen and the music in the background. And we were very fortunate that really quickly, as soon as, I don't know how word got out about the sing-alongs, but we were contacted by 2 of our area agencies on aging. The city of Chicago is its own area agency on aging, but the suburban counties are in 2 separate ones. And we were contacted by them saying, we've heard about what you're doing. The memory cafes have all closed, of course, because of the pandemic, and we'd like to help you keep your sing-alongs going. So we've been very fortunate to be able to have our Good Memories sing-along, which started in, I think, June of 2020, is still going strong every week, year round. We don't take time off even for Christmas. And shortly after we started the sing-along, the first sing-along, our older adults in the Sounds Good silo of our organization heard about it. And because it was funded through monies that were allotted for people with dementia, we weren't allowed to have our other singers join that sing-along. So we had to start a second sing-along for our Sounds Good people. So we now are running 2 sing-alongs. I think you have the schedule. Yeah, we have 2 sing-along programs, both on Fridays, one kind of right after the other. And those are free of charge over Zoom, and anyone can join them. So I want to spread the word about that. You can sign up, anyone can sign up for them on our website. Whether or not they're in the Chicago area. We have singers joining us from all over the place now. We have several care facilities joining us, so they kind of join as a group and broadcast our sing-along into their fellowship room or their recreation room. And sometimes we'll have 6 or 8 people, from a particular facility. So I want to pass along that information. Please pass the word, and we'd love to see some more smiling faces on either of our sing-alongs.
Yeah, those are really fun.
So that was an interesting thing that came, some good stuff came out of the pandemic, including, the meeting that we're having right now, which would not have been on Zoom before, I'm sure. And this is one of the real blessings that came out of the pandemic for us.
Yeah, thank you, Sandy. So again, these sing-alongs are on Fridays. The first one from 11:45 to 12:45 is for a general older adult audience. And then the conductor for that week takes a break and then comes back at 1 o'clock and does basically the same program for an audience of people with memory loss and their care partners. All you have to do is go to soundsgoodchoir.org and you can sign up for that. And because they're held every Friday, if people sign up by, say, Wednesday, of a given week, then we push out an email with a Zoom code on Thursday. Then all people have to do is log in on Friday and they can sing.
I should make a note that the Zoom code changes from week to week because we rotate our conductors. So each conductor has their own Zoom code for the sing along.
Right.
So the participants need to use the new Zoom code each week.
The one that comes on Thursday.
Right.
Yeah, and we really do want people to sign up because that way we can track participation and see who's there. So, all right. So this is kind of an overview, these four things on this slide of what we're up to. So we talked about the Sounds Good Choir, we talked about the Good Memories Choir. We have a Sounds Good Choir in Hyde Park that runs in the spring and fall. That choir is going to have a concert on May 12th at Montgomery Place. Sorry, I don't know why the PowerPoint's advancing. But we don't have a Good Memories Choir in Hyde Park, but we have a Good Memories Choir downtown at Fourth Presbyterian Church on the Magnificent Mile. One of our volunteers in the Good Memories Choir is a Hyde Parker, so she comes down every week. We've also got our online sing-alongs, and we're very happy, as we mentioned to Janelle the other day, that thanks to some other funding that that's coming from the area agencies on aging through the CARES Act, we're going to be starting an online sing-along in Spanish this June. So that's going to be running twice a month. We'll give you more details about that as that comes out, but we're very excited about the musical collaboration there. And then the last thing that we'll talk about, we want to leave time for questions.
We're probably running over, right?
Yeah, we tend to talk a lot. But Sandy, if you can very briefly talk about the research.
I'll do that speed talking that they do.
That's right. Janelle, are we okay to talk a little bit about the research?
Maybe if it can be discussed in like 3 minutes, just
Yeah.
to allow room for question and answer.
Yes, less than 1 minute.
Okay.
It has taken about 4 years to develop a research partnership, but I'm happy to say that we have an ongoing 3 projects ongoing with a team that is a combination of some old colleagues of mine from my early days at Rush, some new colleagues that we've met more recently at Northwestern. It's a 3-way collaboration between our organization and those two other medical centers.
Yeah,
in
we're
the
not
city.
dissing the U of C in any way.
And we're doing program evaluations of our singing programs both online and now that we are in person, and we're launching a pilot study this fall. So if you're interested in more information about that, I'd be happy to talk about it. We're happy that we were just accepted for a poster presentation at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference, which is coming up this summer. So that's a very small project, a very modest project, but a real nice start for us, I think.
Yeah, thanks. So we also wanted to pass along to you a really wonderful offer because Janelle was asking how can people get involved. Thanks to a generous donor from Hyde Park. Usually we do charge for our choirs, but for the first 10 people who are involved with the Share Network who are interested in joining either the Good Memories Choir downtown or the Sounds Good Choir in Hyde Park, our generous donor will cover your registration for free for your first session. So please be in touch with us so you can take advantage of that offer. These are the times. Janelle, if you want to share this, I can give you the presentation. You can share the slides with others afterwards if you want, so we don't have to talk about it so much. But these are ways you can be involved. The sing-alongs are always available and always free, and it's just a really great offer. So we would love, if you like to sing, please sing with us. If you have friends or clients or patients or people in your work that you would like to send with us, send our way, please do.
And do you have our contact information?
And
we'd love to talk, as you can tell. So if you have any further questions or would like to have some more information, don't hesitate to contact us in any of those many ways that are on the screen.
Yeah, soundsgoodchoir.org can always get to us. So
thank you. We're really grateful for your attention and for this chance to be with you.
So grateful for the opportunity. How about if I stop sharing and we open it up for Q&A, Janelle? Does that work?
That works great. Thank you all.
And if you want your cameras on, we can see your faces.
This is the time now where if there's any comments, questions that you like to share with Jonathan and Sandy, now's a great time to do so.
Janie, did you have a question?
I can make a question. I didn't, I kind of have a question in my brain here, so tell me about how you're reaching the under-resourced communities, the communities of color on the south and west sides of the city.
Great question.
Yeah, I mean our choirs are open to all. Our choir in Hyde Park, that's our only choir on the south side at this point. We're certainly open to talking, working with you, talking with you to see where it makes sense to expand our programming. Our online programming is open to anyone, regardless of geography, and are free of charge. So we'd love to have a conversation with you about ways that we can, reach under-resourced people in a more robust way.
Yeah, we're way too white, for sure.
Well, I was wondering, because I'm looking at the photographs and looking at your geography, and I guess so. How difficult is it to start a choir in a geography where you're not active yet? How do you go about that?
You read my mind. That's one of the comments I was going to make. The most success we have in starting a choir comes about because we have built a network underneath us who can refer people and support, not financially, but support the registration of people that they know. Where we have had a couple of experiences attempting to start a choir where we really didn't have very many connections. And we hadn't done, in a community organizing sort of model, we hadn't done a good job of making a tight network and a strong network in that particular community. So I think it's not difficult to start a choir as long as we have a really nice network of connections and people that are interested in helping send us singers.
Yeah, our board secretary lives in South Holland, and she's been asking us about what we could do to try to get something going down there. And partly it's great to have a conductor with a following, because the conductor themselves can be a magnet for getting a new choir started. Part of what we're still a relatively young organization, and about a third of our life happened during the pandemic. So we've actually never finished the strategic planning process. The process that we started got cut short by the shutdown. So we have our first interim executive director now. We're going to be hiring a permanent executive director late summer, early fall. And part of what that person's going to be charged with is leading us, finding a facilitator and leading us through a strategic planning process, partly to answer the question that you just asked, Janie, about what are the best ways to seed a new choir in a location where we don't have one.
Great. I wish you luck with that, and I totally support the effort. And if we in the South Loop Village can help in any way, because we're very active in the Bronzeville neighborhood,
Great.
Which is the home of lots of important music, especially gospel music to Chicago. We'd love to help you with that.
So
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terrific.
Awesome. Thank you, Janie. That was a great question, but thank you for offering that support. And I do want to make sure to call on Harriet Dart. Her hand's been raised. And then I wanted to touch on a few comments that were in the chat. But Harriet, you have your question? Oh. I think Harriet, you're on mute still.
I'm here as a board member of Off the Pews, which is a not-for-profit started in Hyde Park and continues in Hyde Park, for bringing youth together and seniors together. And I was thinking about, Jonathan, you said earlier you were part of the Chicago Children's Choir.
Correct.
And here is your program for older adults, and what might be possible to collaborate on that, to go back to, I don't know if Molly Stone is still working with the Chicago Children's Choir.
She's not, but she actually conducted for us for a year before she got really busy. But we're very good friends with Molly.
Yeah.
If that might be an opportunity for doing that. And I actually looked at joining your Evanston choir, because I'm up here in Deerfield on the north side, and time got away from me in terms of that. And so that's a combination of dementia friendly and just seniors, right?
Yeah, we had two separate choirs before the shutdown. We had a Good Memories choir in Evanston and a Sounds Good choir. And for various reasons that we won't bother you with, we've basically merged those two in Evanston.
Okay,
But Harriet, in the summer, come sing rock and roll with us in Northbrook because we combine our Evanston and Arlington Heights choirs in the summer into a single location.
Yeah.
So
where do you
that
practice?
Also,
Great.
At First Presbyterian, yeah, to answer. There's also, Harriet, some very interesting research out of the University of Victoria in
British
Canada.
Columbia, yeah.
Of a choir for people with dementia that sings with high schoolers. And the research is looking at the benefits for both groups, and it's very compelling, really interesting stuff.
Yeah, Victoria, they have the Ubuntu choirs in British Columbia too.
Yeah, I think this is a more sort of standard, not First
Standard
Nation.
choir. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I was talking to Juan Diaz from Sones de Mexico Ensemble. I don't know if any of you know him. He's a walking scholar of music, but he was also interested in some intergenerational stuff.
Yeah, indeed.
Susan, you had your hands up. Tiffany's hands up. Any other hands
Yeah,
up?
I think Janelle
Go
said
ahead,
some people
Janelle.
had questions in the chat too.
Well, I'll touch on a few things in the chat, and then I saw Susan's hand, and then if there's someone else, they can go after Susan. But I noticed that Candice Draw, she suggested that a way to promote the choir to get out in different communities is to go through churches. So you may want to try to connect, and we have connections at the Share
Wonderful.
Network with
Wonderful.
several churches. So if you're interested in that, and then if anyone has any churches or organizations that you like to connect Sandy and John with, then please, do so through their emails. I'm going to send that out in the follow-up email that I send, as well as I will send out the presentation, which has that. And
That's
then
great.
Monica.
Thanks, Janelle. I just to comment, I of course I love to talk with fellow clergy, but also we find that in our Sounds Good choirs, we have many people who have dropped out of a church choir because they rehearse in the evening. And when people get to a point where they don't really want to go out in the evening and they're not comfortable with that, a daytime choir, often is an attractive option for them.
Awesome. Thank you. Monica made note that we've in the group recently, there's been an ask for music therapy. So this is really great. So thank you, Monica, for reminding us of that. That's one reason why when I heard about you all, I was like, absolutely, we need to have you speak, because that is a need and an interest in our within our group and in our community. So thank you guys for helping to meet that need.
Well, lucky us.
And if I can just add, I wanted to say who specifically asked recently. A hospice company asked me about music therapy. There's times where families are dealing with a whole lot, and then they're at the end of life with their loved one. Music therapy has shown, great benefits for them, and easing just the stress of it. So I definitely want to connect you with them. And I just put in our flyer for our memory cafe that we're creating in West Pullman. So I know it's a hike, but I'm sorry.
I said wonderful.
Yeah, it's a little far, but of course, I'm glad that you have the Zoom option. Our meetings are not on Friday, but we might need to consider that. Miss Darlene should be on the call as well. She's from the Kroc Center, and she's organizing this, and we're supporting her. So
Cool.
This is
Fabulous. Great,
That's
thank
great.
you.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yes, thank you, Monica. I did want to touch on that Harriet Dart shared a resource, DAS, Daily Antidote of Song. They meet, is it 11 a.m. daily Central Time, Harriet? Okay, and that's
It's all online. It's also on Facebook. If you just go into Facebook, you don't have to be a member on Facebook. It's not a rehearsed choir, but it's just an opportunity to sing.
Fun.
awesome.
So, right.
I will look for their information if I can have like a link, and I'll post that in the follow-up email as well. So thank you for providing that. I'm sorry, were you saying something, Harry? Did I cut you off?
I can send that to you, or maybe I can find it and put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you. That would be great. And then I hope I pronounced this right, so please forgive me if I mispronounce, but Chana Singh, a part of the Chinese American Service League. She says that their senior center may have some people that will be interested. Ms. Singh, do you mean in terms of interested in the choir or interested in beginning a choir?
I'm interested in in the choir.
Okay.
That's
Awesome.
great.
Wonderful.
So I will I'll relay the message and see if there's anyone interested.
Great.
And
Awesome.
we have a couple Chinese American singers in our organization, and if it would help, Archana, maybe we can connect one of them to you, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
they can
To like Anne, you mean?
yeah, then they could, they could make an introduction from one
Mhm.
Chinese American to another. So
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Thank you for sharing that. And so I believe that's all the messages that were shared that needs to be shared to the group. But I did want to have Susan's question, and then Tiffany, if you had a question. And then I know we are really close to time. We have 9 minutes to the hour. So I do want to leave room for resources. So after those questions, if anyone has additional questions, they can share those with me. I can share them with John and Sandy, or John and Sandy, if you'd like to put your email in the chat, people can reach out to you directly if you like. And
absolutely.
again, their contact information will come in the follow-up email. But go ahead, Susan, with your question. Oh, you're on mute, Susan.
I'm
Okay.
curious about the combined choir in Evanston and what your experience is with that. Is this a model that you see perhaps given adequate resources and so forth in doing in other locations? Or
It's a great question.
It's a wonderful question, and it's a question that we happen to be asking almost every day here. The Evanston, to give you a little bit of backstory, the Evanston in 2019 fall, we had our first session of the Evanston Good Memories Choir, and at the end in December of 2019, we had our first concert. And at that time, the choir, which had started really small, was about 20 some people, which is a pretty good size, just kind of like the bare minimum for a choir to sound pretty good. And then the pandemic hit. So by the time the pandemic was resolving and we were moving back in person, by my best count, I had about 8 or 9 volunteers and maybe 2 dyads of person with dementia and their care partner. And that was not enough to really have a robust experience of any kind. So as Jonathan said, we rolled our Good Memories people into what had been the existing Sounds Good choir that had been going on since the beginning, since 2016. So that's the hybrid, and it fit nicely because Evanston is in a very active process of becoming, a dementia-friendly community. As it has gone on, it's a very healthy choir. Our people with dementia are doing incredibly well. I think they've rolled into that choir really well. They're holding their own musically, but what I'm finding is that several dyads have attempted to join the choir and realized the music is too difficult for them, which it really is. And we don't want to, I don't like this expression, but we don't want to dumb down the music for the Sounds Good choir, because part of their experience is to be challenged musically. So we're in this dilemma of, I think socially it's a really good fit. Musically, it's not a good fit. And so I'm actually pulling a working group together that will start in May to look at exactly this dilemma. What does the future look like for Good Memories and or dementia friendly? And I don't know the answer to it. I can see real advantages to each, and we have to make some decisions about what our programs are going to look like.
Yeah,
So,
and we'd love to learn from you all. We should probably get to networking
Yeah.
and stuff, but please be in touch with us, offline, and we'd love to learn what you think the community needs in ways that we can't see
Yeah.
currently.
Well, feel free, you all, to pose those questions that you may have. So Sandy, Jonathan, if you have questions specific to, hey, what do you think the community needs? I can share that with the group when I send out the follow-up email.
Wonderful.
And then again, they have posted, Sandy and John have posted their emails in the chat. I will share that with as well in the follow-up email. So that's a way for you all to share your additional questions or additional connections that you like to make. That can happen in that way. But this has been really, really great. I already knew it would be great, but to see it turn out so great and hear you all's story again and see the interest here, I just want to say this has been really good and a highlight of my day. And then thank you all so much for being so willing to share and for really all the great intentional work and commitment that you have to the choirs. Thank you all so much. for
Thank
that.
you. It's been an honor to be with you.
Yeah. And so we have a few minutes left. So this is the time where if you have anything you'd like to share with the group in terms of resources, any questions, any experiences that you'd like to share with the group, now is a great time to hear that.
Hi, everyone. I want to thank y'all for that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Hi,
Hi, thank
Stephanie.
you. Hello. I'm Stephanie with the Caring for Caregivers program at Rush, and wanted to let you all know we're having some introductory webinars, and I can share the link. And I sent you a corrected link, Janelle, because we had given I think the flyer before had a link that may not work for people.
Okay.
So I reshared it. And I just want to thank you for including us in this. And that was really such a fantastic presentation. And the music, the little portion that we heard was so beautiful. So thank you
Wasn't
both.
it? It
It's
was.
great.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'd love to talk with you further. I started my career at Rush in psychology in the medical center, and I'm sure we still have some connections of some of my
Really?
colleagues from neurology.
Oh, I'm sure we do. I'm sure we do. I can send you our flyer, and we'll definitely keep an eye on the great, the follow-up emails that we always get from this meeting, and I can respond to you that way and send a
Great.
flyer.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you.
Darlene, please do reach out about West Pullman. I'd love to have that conversation with you. Thank you so much.
John, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I am so excited about what you're doing, and I'm looking forward to having a further conversation. Monica and I just talked about having some type of musical therapy here at the Kroc Center. So this is going to be a great opportunity for us to see if we can introduce it in our area.
Cool. Very good. We
Fabulous.
look forward to getting to know you better. Thank you so much.
Thank you.